This is the Motivated Business Show, hosted by me, Mark Terrell, the author of Motivated, the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business that Sets You Free. In my book, I share the 7-step process to get the measure of your business. M.E.A.S.U.R.E is an acronym that stands for Mirror, Evaluate, Action, Systemize, Unify, Review, and Energize. On each episode, I'll be chatting to a business owner about how they stay motivated and how they've got the measure of their business. So without further ado, let's find out who's joining me on this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Motivated Business Show with me, Mark Terrell. Today's guest I met quite a while ago, actually, networking again. You might find that I say that a lot and that's the importance of networking. You get out, meet people that are doing similar things to you or completely different things to you, but you actually connect and find that these people are actually doing things that can maybe complement what you do. And what Sarah does is really important. I have some affinity definitely to her way of thinking, and so I'm looking forward to chatting with her on this episode. Before we do that, just to remind you, as I said in the intro, I'll be mentioning the 7-step model that I wrote about in my book, Motivated, and you can get a copy of that book. You can either get it direct from me from my website, or you can go to Amazon where you can get the Kindle or the paperback version. Okay, so without further ado, let's get our guest on today. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to our conversation. But before we do that, let's give you the opportunity to introduce.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Sarah Newland. I run a business called Keyboard Smash. We've been in business for 7 years now. And I think the simplest way I've now found to describe what we do is to say that we run businesses for our clients. So we're in the business of running businesses. So we reduce and streamline workload. We give our clients back a clear head by taking on their to-do list, allow them to focus on the bigger picture, to kind of embrace leadership, which we often find is something they're struggling to do. And the other main thing really is give them time to chase opportunities that they're looking to take, which they can't at the minute. So that's it.
Time, you mentioned a few times there, Sarah, so that's going to be a bit of a topic, I think. So before we do that, and before we went live, you just shared with me that you just finished the NatWest Accelerator program, and I'm really interested to find out a bit more. I'm sure those that are listening and watching would be. So tell us what that's about, and particularly what you've learned from it.
Yeah, it was one of those things that I've heard about it. It's been going a long time, I think, and quite a long time in NatWest. It's a free program that runs in 6 monthly cycles. So it's free in the way that you don't have to pay for it, but you have to, if you want to get the most of it, you have to give up lots of time. I had some friends that were some friends and colleagues that were had applied, and I literally put an application in on the last day because in my mind I didn't actually have the time to do it. I was saying to myself I didn't have the time to do it, and then what I realised was that is why I needed to apply because what I realised was that I had really ended up being my own worst client in that I was overwhelmed. I was in a good position of having almost too much work to do to the time that I had, but this wasn't a sustainable way to grow my business. So the reason I joined was because I didn't feel like I could join. But it has been the best decision that I've made in business, not only because the actual program is excellent, but the quality of coaching is excellent, the other business owners in the community is brilliant, the content, the content of the workshops and the sessions, the guest speakers that they get, but they're incredibly well connected. Like if you're looking for investment, that wasn't the main reason why I joined, but lots of people are. It's not free in the value that you get back from it, but you do have to put in. Yeah. So there is a cost to time, but I think for me the main thing has been to actually treat Keyboard Smash like a client for 6 months. Like I've given it the time that it deserves to actually work out what it needs to grow, and to make sure that I'm not burning out in the process. So it's given me real clarity and confidence in the future of Keyboard Smash, which it's sort of hopefully what I help to give my clients. It's just you can't really do it for yourself, can you?
I'm sure. Well, it's a classic example of working on your business rather than in it, and we've all
Oh
guilty
yeah,
of getting heads down and just working harder and not feeling we're getting anywhere. So sounds like that's a great thing. So reach out and obviously want to find out more. I'm sure Sarah would help with
oh
regards
yeah,
to
more than
what
happy.
um,
Yeah,
talk about that. So let's come back to what you do, and you mentioned that you help businesses to run, which is interesting, isn't it? So why do you think so many business owners have trouble running their business?
I think I like to say that if you're being honest, no one really goes into business to run their own business. Yeah, they go out, they go out and they leave a corporate job, or they decide to go freelance or self-employed because they want to be a coach, or they want to be a trainer, or they want to run events, they want to do PR, they want to do Google ads. The list is kind of endless. That is the thing that they go out to do, and they want to help their clients do that. It's just that when you start a business or you go self-employed, freelance, you you also get the job of running your business. There are things that you have to do in order. It's reasonably easy to start being self-employed in the UK, unless not talking about setting up a limited company. There's slightly more to do with that, but to be self-employed, you literally just need a UTR number. It's incredibly simple to start, which is great because it means that loads of people can do it. But as you start to get busier and build that, there's a lot more. There's a lot more that is involved, like managing your finances and kind of jumping through the compliance hoops, especially when you start to employ people, even if you work with people freelance. There's the old dreaded IR35. And then you start using systems because you want to speed things up, and that brings more complexity. So those are all the things we're talking about in terms of running your business. There's the things that you really have to do, and then the things that you've ended up doing, like managing people, and the whole people framework, that you may often. I find my clients they just suddenly I've got 3 employees, and
How did that
um,
happen?
yeah, and everything that you have to do. Sorry, just turn my heat off. Everything you have to do to kind of really make the most of it for them. So those are
Yeah.
the things we're talking about.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we obviously talked beforehand about, and I said I expect we'll be talking a lot about systemizing, which is one of the 7 steps in my book. But you said, well, I've got a sort of a thing about systemizing because people assume systemizing is about software, but obviously what we're talking about here is not just implementing software. There's far more to it than that. Yeah. So do you want to allude a bit more about the processes that are important that a business needs to function?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those funny bugbears, isn't it? I'm sure that every industry has that bugbear. Don't say that word to me. So I did. Just thanks for making the points. We're not. Software is involved in what happens, but that isn't. System and software aren't interchangeable words. So it's systems and processes together, I guess. The way that I look at a business is I look at the customer journey. So often we think of the customer journey on a line, but ideally it can be a line, but also be a circle, just meaning that once a customer comes to the end of working with us, we want to know how they can help us win more business through referrals and whatnot, but also I'm yet to meet a business that doesn't. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm yet to meet a business that doesn't have a way that their past clients could work with them again. Yeah, and that's the circle part. The reason I look at it as a customer journey life cycle, which is more of I guess, a marketing approach, is because every part of your business involves your clients. Yeah, because that's why you have a business. So every part of your business is at some point you're gonna have to ask them for money. Therefore, we're talking about finances. At some point, they might work with parts of your team. Therefore, we're talking about team. At some point, you're going to put them into a bit of software. Therefore, we're talking about software. So I look at it on a customer. I look at the whole customer journey process in order to manage what improvements need to be made and to systemize how things are working throughout the whole cycle. And obviously, like
And
the beginning, it talks about, that involves sales and marketing right at the beginning. Yeah,
yeah,
that's where it
yeah.
starts before someone
So
is.
so when do clients typically come to you? What are they feeling, and what are the sort of things they're saying to you when, Sarah, I need your help because what are those things that typically come out in that initial sort of meeting?
I used to say that, oh, people phone me like 9 months too late. Like if they could just phone me 9 months beforehand, like they'd be in a much better position. But I've come to realise over time that it's because I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, it's hard, it can be hard to admit that you don't want to, or you realise that you're not that great at doing the running the business part. And the reason that's hard is because it's a bit like saying I'm not cut out to do this. Yeah, it's just that's not true. You have done, like, business owners have done it for, I work with really established businesses. They might have been doing the running of a business part for 10 years. It just it's okay to admit that they don't want to do it anymore. So that's what I've come to realise, that they phone me when they're ready for that conversation, and that's important because we all need to be aware of what we're good and we're good and bad at, or not so good at. And it's all right if you don't want to run the business anymore, because actually you want to be going out and getting the business and going to the events and whatnot. I'm all for that. So generally they're incredibly overwhelmed, and they're doing more than they really can in the hours that are available in the week, which is compromising on their life, which I'm sure lots of us can. I was in that situation last year, so I really feel like I've walked this journey now, which I think is useful. Um, so they're overwhelmed. They've got more. They've got lots of opportunities that they can't chase because they are so busy. It is about time, but I think lots of people are kind of selling on the time message, but that is a part of it. Um, they've got a lot of outgoings. So although they're increasing in terms of how many clients they've got, so they're busy and they've got lots of business, their costs are also increasing with it. So they're not necessarily making more money at the end of it, because their costs are increasing in line with their the seller. Can't think what I'm trying to say, with the service they're selling.
Yeah,
So they're going like line, and all I'm thinking of is a chart here, yeah, where it increases in line, rather
yeah,
than they rather than this.
yeah.
So the actual money they have at the end isn't increasing.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
so I was going to say there, sometimes you have to take a dip in short-term profitability because it's
yeah,
the long-term growth you're looking for, isn't it? So,
yeah,
that's just one of those things with businesses. It's not like, if you see a graph, it's not like that goes up smoothly like that. We know it sort of goes a bit like this, and accepting that that's just the case, and realising that profits don't just increase just because you work harder.
yeah, absolutely. But also this was a bit of a light bulb moment for me at NatWest, actually. So with the graph being like, you have these moments of, like, it might look like a plateau, and then you like shoot up, and then there's a plateau and they shoot up. Um, so, but I don't see the plateau as a bad thing. Like,
No.
you have to have stabilizing times in business. But I think for my clients, there's this constant up and no time for break. Like, this is where we get. Sorry, the lights changed in here. This is where we get. This is where we get the overwhelm, and then, like, the constant working, and then the burnout, because there's no points at which you have this break. This break isn't a bad thing. It's just a time for it's a time for consolidation.
Yeah, yeah, we do need it. I mean, looking, I was thinking back to my retail business. We had some times of really strong growth. If it was like that all the time, I'm not sure how we would have coped, really. But it's about managing it, isn't it? And I was going to go back to something that I heard many years ago by someone. I can't remember who said it, but when you are getting to something like about 80% of your capacity, that's when you should start to think about how you're going to increase your capacity. And
Yeah,
there's various ways you can do that, and obviously you can't duplicate yourself, so that you might be finding someone that you can employ or work with, or get someone that can actually help you be more efficient with your time. And also, I'm talking a lot about managing energy as opposed to time. you
Yeah.
have to manage your time, obviously, but
Yeah.
if your energy levels are low, then it becomes like a treadmill. And
Yeah.
one of the things that, with the work I do with motivation is understanding where you get that energy from, and you
Yeah.
can always achieve more if your energy levels are high. So how do you keep your energy levels high, Sarah, in your business to make sure that you can, get the best of what you're doing and how you're supporting your clients?
Yeah. It's such a good. It's just, yeah. It's, well, you know how much, like, what I think of your work, like how important it is, and it is something that I see with my clients. Like, they're not in their best energy, because they are doing things that they don't want to do.
Mm.
For me, I always find this interesting when I speak to people and they say, "Oh, I need another one of me," and I'm kind of like, um, it's not that that's not sometimes true. I think that you don't need another one of you. So what I did towards the start, right at the start of the NatWest, I could have easily said I need another one of me, and they could have taken one of my clients, for example, yeah, because I was busy with client work. But instead, I hired someone who is really good at sales and marketing, and they do some of the bits and pieces of running my business. Ironically, like, I actually enjoy those parts of my business, but I get more enjoyment out of my client work. Yeah, so I haven't hired another one of me. I've hired someone to do the other things, and not only has it given me time, it's just, she comes and works in the office. We can bounce ideas off each other. Like, I feel like I'm growing something bigger, and then I have more energy to do the client work, because I think it's that being very honest about the things that I don't want to do, even if I feel like I should do them. Oh, I should do that. It's my business. I should be doing that thing. When actually, it's okay. Like, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to. So I've given the things away that I'm not
Yeah.
that good at.
Well, it's a classic scenario, isn't it? I mean, we talked about, your clients are typically visionaries that have got an idea, and they start because they've got an idea and they've got some expertise and technical know-how, whatever it is. But what they do need is actually not another one of them. Actually, need
Yeah.
someone that's a bit different than them. And we
Yeah.
talked about, there's a book that we both think is almost like perfect for this, and it's Rocket Fuel, as you've demonstrated there. Rocket Fuel is brilliant in that it talks about the visionary and also talks about the integrator. The integrator's role is very different than the visionaries, and
Yeah.
actually, what you need is those two
Yeah.
roles to allow a business to grow. So I guess you're sort of helping the integrator on what you do with regards to making the business work rather than being the visionary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I think it. I sit in the integrator seat. So in like Rocket Fuel, integrators, like the detail person, kind of gets the things done, like takes a measure of the visionary, and it's like, yeah, that's a great idea, but right, like, we can't do that right now, or if we do that, we'll have to park this plan. Whereas in a kind of, the visionaries got all the ideas. They've got 15 ideas a day that could grow the business, and you can see how you need both of them, because you
Mm.
need the ideas in order for the business to be bigger and better, but you also need the person to make them happen. So I sit in the integrator seat, but knowing that if I think about that for my own business, and I know the model quite well now, and I've done lots of self development around with other models, that's actually what's kept my business smaller than maybe it could be, because I'm a very risk measured person, which is really good for my clients, because I look at everything and we prioritize in a risk measured way. Risk measured in terms of cash, risk measured in terms of what the team can achieve, risk measured in terms of the skill set of the team, amongst lots of other external things. But what that means is that if it's just me, or when it was just me in my business, everything's going to be risk measured. So I'm not, I'm not chasing the bigger things. Yeah. So it has kept Keyboard Smash smaller. So, but knowing that, like, it could be hard to admit that, but I'm all right with that now. But I know what I know is that I need to, whether they're in my business or whether I use a coach or whatever, that I need to have people around me that put things in that are bigger than what I might be comfortable with. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like if it's just like, oh, what's your annual turnover? What are you going to aim for this year? And I say a number, and my coach doubles it, and I'm like, but then it puts it in, and it's an option that my brain wouldn't have kind of
Yeah,
thought
that
of.
classic challenge and support.
Yeah,
That's what you need from a coach, isn't it? Essentially, that's how I work. You
yeah.
need to be there to support, but also to challenge where you see there's opportunities.
Mm.
So I was going to come back to what sort of businesses. You mentioned that your business has been going for, what was it, 6 or 7 years now? Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So businesses go through stages. So you've got obviously the startup phase, and then you've got like a consolidation phase, and then you might have a growth phase. Where particularly do what's a typical client? Where are they in that sort of cycle?
Yeah, so I work with service-based businesses. That's just based on experience, really. So I'll focus in that area. Um, and also, it tends to be that they get more complexity as a result of people that they need to bring in. So the model um, tends to include people delivery, and that's where perhaps you see the costs increasing in line with in line with sales. Um, they're established, as in they have an established offering. So we're always working with a kind of something that is stable. The service, they might be, there might be opportunity to introduce new services, but they've got a solid service that has been running for 10 years or so. Um, they're going through a growth phase in that kind of chart we've sort of talked about. They're going through a growth phase that um, seems to there seems to be no consolidation. So it's not kind of start up or scale up. It's they're past that in terms of being established, but they are growing. Like they're active. They're trying to grow. They want to grow. Like they want it to be bigger.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So
and that,
partly sort of efficiency we're talking about here, aren't we? So before they can grow, then they need to become a bit more efficient with the way they do things to
yeah.
allow that growth, and then you can support them through that growth as well, I guess.
Yeah, so I think like back to that whole. I wish people phoned me 10 months before, because
Mm.
it would probably be just before they like hit the peak of like their where they're growing. But yeah, like that just means we're working on two planes, because we're trying to improve whilst we're also in the business, potentially in the busiest time. But yeah, and I think it's about efficiency. It's about efficiency for everyone in a way, because whilst they need they need feet on the ground doing the work. It's also, if you stay in that growth phase for too long, you're asking your team to stay there as well.
Yeah.
You know, um, and like everyone is different. Not everyone wants to work at that kind of like held to the leather all the time. Some people do thrive in that environment, but I believe that no one can do it for that long, and not everyone does want to. So not only is it not okay for you as a business owner to be there for that long, it's kind of not okay to ask your team to do that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it's so important, because it's not just about it's about everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because
Right, Sarah, I'm going to give you an opportunity to just take a breather now, to step back a bit. I'm going to share some bits and pieces that I've sort of thought about, and as I mentioned, connect it to the 7-step model and why the 7-step model. That's why I use it. So a lot of what we talked about here is understanding, having a good amount of self-awareness, understanding yourself. So if you're when you get to that point where you are going to employ someone or get a business partner or something, you have to awareness as to what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, so that you get someone to complement you. So that's key when it comes to the mirror, understanding yourselves. And typically in that place, we're talking about motivation, we're talking about behavioural styles, and we're talking about character strengths, and using them effectively, and being aware of your weaknesses, and not being the person that has to work on their weaknesses, but actually realising that there's probably someone that's got those as strengths, and so that's where you need to find someone to complement you. Obviously, systemizing, I call it systemizing, we can call it processes, whatever you want to call it. It is an important part of a business. And if you can't build things in, then what is the actual business? It's if you're making things up every day, then is that really business? Whereas a business should have things that are consistent. There's things the way we do things, and when we are building a business and growing it, then when we bring new people in, we've got to be able to tell them this is the way we work, and we're not trying to reinvent. So I think what you do with regards to processes is essential to businesses. But I want to just go on and talk particularly a bit more about motivation and the key with regards to what I see so often. This motivator here, the spirit motivator, is the one that comes up most often, and it's the one that's least being met so often. So what happens if you want freedom and you're getting very little of it? Then you become frustrated. You come to a point where you are looking, in danger of that burnout situation because you are not getting any downtime. And one of the things when I talk about the managing energy rather than time, it's not about it's being hell for leather all the time. Yes, there are times when you are going to go through and you have to work hard, but there's going to have to be some downtimes, like you said. You've got to measure it so that you can then recharge at the right times and go again. And a great book I read, and it resonates so much, talks about how top athletes, they perform best, not because they are 100% all the time. They're only thinking about when they need to perform at their best, and then making sure that they have all the things in place to recharge and look after themselves so they're ready for those key moments. So typically, as I say, like in a tennis match, it's not about winning every point, it's about winning the points that really matter. And when we think about the type of thing that entrepreneurs don't tend to have, is this motivator. Defender motivator is about consistency, security, predictability, stability. And if you think about it, most entrepreneurs aren't really thinking about that. They're thinking about the next thing, think about the growth. So what we think about with regards to getting somebody to complement you is think about someone that wants stability. Yes, they might be becoming a bit challenging to work with because they will probably be more questioning. They will be more challenging with regards to, do we really need to change this? But that's sometimes what you need. You need someone to bounce off, so you're not for hell for leather, change for the change's sake. So there's just a few things to share on what we've talked about. Any comments on what I said there, Sarah? Anything that resonates?
Just like laughing about the defender, the defender
Okay.
thing. They're
Yeah.
just think, yeah, I'm that person that asks all the questions.
Yeah.
Like, I think probably I was a very annoying child at school because I'm not really satisfied with a fluffy answer. Like
Right.
like
Are
I
you
need to
the
say,
why kid saying why? Is that what you
yeah,
like?
I feel like all kids are that. To be
We're all
fair,
like that, yeah, indeed.
yeah, maybe I've got a 4 and a 7-year-old, so they're definitely in the why, which we
Right.
try not to stifle. But yeah, I think in business, it's like understanding why things are helps you to make the decision to change it in the future. We didn't actually talk much about systemizing and process, maybe
Mm-hmm.
ironically, because I think that is a massive part of what I do. We talk more
Yeah.
about awareness,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think there's nothing really to add apart from that. Without any process, system or process, then I just you've got it even if you don't realize you have it. Often it's just about making it better. As
Yeah,
in,
although we didn't maybe talk too much about the process and systemizing, one of the things you mentioned was like prioritizing and time. And that is a key lesson to anybody that's running a business. You've got to think about the time you're spending doing things and prioritizing the important things, and not being in that position where you're just doing things that are urgent all the time. Some
yeah.
things are not urgent but important, so finding time to do them is
Mm.
essential. And
Also, we're
with
always going to gravitate towards the things that we like doing, and this is,
yeah,
so, um, and this is where kind of like leaning into people with other skill sets, because as much as you try, unless you absolutely have to. That's why always those things always then become urgent. because no one's ever going to want to review the terms and conditions of their business or get their head around GDPR. Like, it's just that thing they know about, but there will always be something else. So
Yeah.
like, you're always going to prioritize the other thing. Like, it's just a story we're telling ourselves. Like,
But there's a good business lesson there in that if you're going to set up a business, set up a business that doing the things that nobody wants to do, and you'll always be busy because they'll always be looking for your services. So,
like me then.
indeed, exactly. So, Sarah, sadly the time has run out. 30 minutes has flown by. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for what you shared. I think what you do is great, and it's an essential part of any business is understanding how to make it work and allow it to grow. And you're what we talked about before we come on air was that you're really a business partner in that you're not a person like that's going to be employed and told what to do. You're someone that's actually here to challenge, show and suggest things to allow the business to get out of its own way, which is often the case. That's what I find anyway.
I think it's one of the benefits. They're not my manager, so I can politely say what they need to hear, and they're not going to fire me. We might finish working together, but I've got integrity and I've given them what I know is what they need to hear. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. Hopefully catch up again soon. Until then. Yeah. So there we are, Sarah Newland from Keyboard Smash. If you're having troubles in your business, you're getting frustrated, and that you need someone to put in some processes because you just don't have any time, then get in touch with Sarah. I'm sure she can point you in the right direction or help you whichever way that it works out. So just before we go then, last opportunity for me to mention my book. All the 7 steps are in the book. There's actually 2 pre chapters that aren't covered in the 7 steps, and that is about looking after yourself, which I'm very passionate about, and also understanding how you've got to learn to enjoy the journey. So there's a chapter on both of those as well. So there's 9 chapters in the book. So if you would like to get a copy, then again from my website or from Amazon. Thank you for those that joined us live, and if you catch this on replay, any comments you have, then feel free to leave them for myself or Sarah. We would be more than happy to answer them and reply and get back to you as soon as we can. But until the next episode of the Motivated Business Show, I wish you well, take care, and see you next time.